Right, what I want to look at is a method of creating tissue trauma or injury. So gouging, ripping, tearing, maiming, as long as grabbing the throat, strangulation, eye gouging, this kind of stuff. What's also included in that is biting. So if you look at Muay, which is a method of anti-grappling, if you like, that incorporates ripping, gouging, tearing and biting. If you look at some of the old warring methods taught to the samurai unarmed, the old jitsu stuff, it incorporated this sort of stuff. If you look at some of the ancient thuggy, the old Indians that were known for strangulation and various ways of using this kind of stuff. Through history, there's lots of examples of ripping, tearing and maiming. Ripping, tearing and maiming belongs at extreme close quarters, in my opinion, to create pain, to get distance, to get to higher weaponry potential. So to get to your primary weapons. It's very interesting to look at some ways in which you can train it. So recently we've been looking at it, and I've looked in various influences, had a look at some Filipino kinematized, some other instructors that have made tapes on how to train that. So many influences are coming into play here, and they'll be listed as we go, but what we're looking at is just some things. So the other day I was looking at Lauren Christensen's old video on ripping, poking and tearing, etc. And he talks about the formations of the weapon first. So if you look at the hands, you're looking at fingertips for poking, scratching, tearing and ripping. You can also look at the pads of the thumb and the fingers for pressing, pressure on the eye, pushing in deep. You would also use the elbow to push deep into the orbital socket and stuff like that, so pressing. But I'm more interested in tearing, ripping and gouging. So if you look at the finger as a whole, the finger straight is relatively weak, but if you put a curve to it and stiffen it up, then this structure pulling across this way is relatively strong. You could use that as a one finger digit into the eye, or two fingers, or all four fingers coming into the eyes from behind. So if you slap somebody's ears and brought these in and then ripped, pressed or raped or gouged. So fingers can be employed for these kind of things, as obviously can the thumb. The thumb nail designed to go straight in and rip across. So what we're looking at is just ways in which we can train that. If you're going to train it on a piece of kit, you need like a bob dummy or some kind of head like this, which will give you natural configurations to feel. Another example simply might be just having a pad with a facial structured target. You've not got the contours now because it's not three-dimensional, but you can feel or look where things are to go. Or just a regular pad. You could also cover a regular pad in some thick, tight plastic so that you could rip it to simulate tearing stuff. If you're going to work with a partner, a couple of safety factors. First are, make sure your nails are short, your hands are clean and they're washed, and then you use some kind of surgical glove. If you're going to practice on each other, then both of you would wear such gloves. So just looking at examples of how we can train. First, we're going to just work on the pad. We're going to look at applying slaps, grabs, rips and strikes integrated into that on pads and kit, and then cross it over to a partner for gentle play using these gloves. You could also employ eye protection, such as swimming goggles. The swimming goggles are probably the better because you can put pressure, but you're not getting any feel of contour. So it's better just to use soft control partner crossover and get a feel where things are. We're going to start with a couple of drills incorporating this kit. So the first drill we're going to look at is taking the head. So because he's using a pad, I can take the head ballistically. So an example, if I was to take the head for a clinch working with a partner, I would take it ballistically one or two times because it starts to suck when you're training. In reality, I would ballistically grab it. If it has a pad, I can take it quite ballistically each time. Here I want to look at just get the chest to back position for a head rotation. So what I'm looking to achieve is taking the head here, getting this back so I can get to here to take the throw, straight or rip or fish hook. And you simulate that on the pad. I mean, I want to push, pull, one side and the other side, simulates one side and the other side here, and I want to turn it. This will torque his wrist to a degree. So I'm not going to turn it all the way and then pull it in necessarily. I'm going to move to a position to the side so I don't stress his wrist too much. But the bottom line is, otherwise I'm going to make his hand do that. So the bottom line is I'm going to turn, and as I turn him I move. And as I move behind I pull this in to smother it. So it's like I'm taking the face and smothering it in to get to a position now where I can rip, rape, bite or gouge here. So you've just got to push, pull, turn and smother. Here, just pull, turn, smother. As soon as I get here, just work one side, rake, 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 rake. First drill, we're practicing just taking chest to back, so he's in a behind me position. I might do that by pushing, putting on his shoulders if he's tall, or I might do that just by turning his head, breaking his base to me. But either way, I get him here. From here now, using the C-clamp, the finger and thumb configuration that we talked about, I can crush the throat, I can grab and fish up the face, I can rip the nose, I can bite the ear, I can rip the eye, rake across the face. That's the idea. So pat. You're going to get this push-pull. What I'm going to do is that. So it's literally that. That's what I'm doing. And all I need is one arm to follow it here to pull it into me. So I'm turning his head and smothering. Ballistic entry. And ballistic smother. And from here it's rip, rip. This. So first count, push pull. Again. More. And application. Second one, push pull, freeze it. Smother. Again. Push pull, smother. Application. Pull in tight, ballistic. Ballistic entry. Boom. There it is. More. From this smother. Any configuration. Rip. Break. Again. Rip and rake. Okay? So use your fingertips, not your prints. If you have long nails, as a woman, then use the pads of your fingers and just scratch them across gently. The idea isn't to dig them in and rip your own fucking nails off, but get a feel of getting purchased to score across the face with the nails. So inside, smother, rip, rip. Okay? Application. Yeah. Good. All right. That's it.
Last time, we'll freeze it there. From here, you're just going to smother it and put it to your chest.
Ballistic.
One and then two. Good. One, two. One, two. Even harder, put it into your chest. One, two.
Freeze that. From there, work the rake.
So rake across whichever ones.
Just count them both. And again. And chunk it back.
Alright, so 1, 2 and 3, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Good.
Again like that. 1, 2, 3. Last time like that. 1, 2, 3. Whole thing for the first count. Ready? Go.
Flow it. Here and I pulled in. Here I can use this to crush this. Here I can use any configuration I want. One finger to rip across, two's better here, or all four. Or I could use 4 on the mouth, just taping the nape, so he doesn't bite me, just take the nape and rip. You could take with this hand, that 4-finger configuration, and just rip and rake across this, like pulling his trachea. So I could pull his eye one side and his trachea the other. So now it exposes the ear for me to bite it, in which case I'd use the incisor of the teeth, small amount of flash, clamp down so I can bite uninterrupted, tenaciously like a pit bull, bite it off and then spit it in his face. But the purpose of this segment is this ripping, gouging and tearing. So the first drill, push, pull, smother, rake, rake, with any configuration from 1, 2 or all 4, ripping across in this way. So looking at this kind of work, if I'm chest to back from here and you've got something like a bob dummy, so this is a cheap variant, but it gives you the contours of the face. So you can see where these kind of stiffened, curved fingers belong. If I pull from his nose here across to the ledge of his eye, then I find the orbital socket. Obviously, if I can get 1 or 2 or even all 4 digits close to proximity of this eye, from here I can press and then rip across. Same thing if I use this 4-finger configuration deep into the windpipe, I can rake it this way. So from this chest back position, I have the ability to seek an eye and pull back this way, to crush here with fingers and thumb, to rip across, to grab this and just rip down, to come into the eyes and dig deep, rip across. Any things are possible from here. Two fingers coming here to the nostril, or 1 nostril, ripping it this way, coming into the contours of the side of the mouth. It's important that you just hit the contour and then pull, or strike first and then pull, so that you negate the bite. When you practice it on something like this, you can feel where things belong. This is, in essence, the concept of the shredder. You're just going to rip something apart like your hands are 2 magnets stuck to a piece of metal. You know, Richard Dimitri took this to a far more sophisticated level. And if we just look at the maiming elements involved and the tools that you employ, this is a way in which you can practice them on a flat, 2-dimensional pad. Doesn't really give you the feel, so a dummy would be better. So you want to work it concussively. So if I was to come here, you know, this will come down with impact and then rip. This way, this will be a striking and a rip. Here, if I'm with a fish hook, I strike and rip down, punch this into the face and rip back. So there'd be ballistic impact inserted inside of the maiming. A good way to practice that, of course, is a bob or some kind of head configuration dummy. If you're going to work with a partner, then you must use gloves, and you must just touch and use light contact to feel, so pressure. So use the finger pad of the ear when you press or push, and use the tip of the nail to just touch on top of the eyelid. One way in which we train it, particularly for the thumb gouge, is to wipe the eyebrow with the thumb. The reality is the point of the thumb goes deep into the eye and it rips across the cornea here. But I want to practice just what it feels like to have contours. Where's the lube? Right, well, looking here in relation to me being chest to back in this kind of situation, I'm going to dig these digits deep and feel what the trachea feels like. The idea would be to punch right in and almost close your fingers behind the trachea to let you know you got it. From this position, you could ballistically rip this way using that finger formation. This would be how you attack the throat. If you were going to attack the face, like I said, you want something concussive first that gives you a ledge on the lip. You don't necessarily need to go inside. So now I'm using surgical gloves, so they're all nice and clean. I'm not going inside here because there's a danger of a bite. All I've got to find is the contour of his mouth with that stiff fingered structure, and just pull it. If you find along where people as they age, they line, particularly like me, you'll see the skin is weaker where it's lined, so that's where it's most likely to tear. So from this configuration, if I got this thumb in here and just pushed up or pushed down, I can manipulate his head. Here, eye structure speaks for itself, taking the nose, ripping in this way, taking the ear, just concussively closing the hand this way and just ripping backwards or pushing forwards, because that's the way the ear would turn. If there's hair, pulling up and back to manipulate the head, so now I can get in for this kind of attack. This is how you would rip, tear and maim from a chest to back position. If you look at that from a frontal perspective, regardless of how you've entered here, how you've ended up here, you're only employing this kind of stuff as an anti-grappling kind of measure. But here you would concussively hit the face, find the contour, guide it, work it this way. If you had one this side, you might rip this down and then this one through. The thumb goes right deep into the eye. The eye's a sphincter muscle, it's going to curl up really tight. It's very difficult to get into the eye. It's more likely that you're going to lacerate the eyelid and put optical pressure on the eye, which pushes it in. So there's a plausibility just by pressing with the thumb, pressing in deep, or grinding in with the elbow if you were on the ground, that you could create an optical knockout. It shifts the eye back from where it's supposed to be. Central nervous system just shuts down or has a hissy fit. But here we're talking about ripping, gouging, raking, that kind of look. So I'd want to dig in deep from here, use the nail, drop body weight and just rip across the cornea. And of course that can be done bilaterally this way, inside of the thigh. So I'm taking the mouth, I want the corner of the mouth. So where he would smile, where the smile ends and it gives me that nice cute little dimple, it's there, I want to take that up or manipulate. Another way is from here, just driving this hand up and taking the lip. So one of the old chin down World War II methods was chin jab up, into the eyes, rake or take down. I prefer chin jab up, take the lip, just rip it down. So if you take the lip, there's a chance that you might get bitten. Or if you take these fingers, this was first shown to me years ago by Jamie O'Keefe as a means to control somebody that was aggressive. I've also seen it since, more recently, coming within the fields of Libre, where they're looking at these kind of old ways of maiming from the Japanese kind of jutsu way of coming up to the lip, planting it over the teeth, and then pulling down. So if he tries to bite, he's biting his own lip, but at the same time they'll drive some pressure up here to keep the mouth open, or something in the eye, or something in the jaw, up and under the cheek that keeps the mouth open already. A lot of this stuff involves also pressure points of the face. I'm not into that at all. I think, like Dave Tone said many years ago, anything's a fucking pressure point if you hit it hard enough. All I would use this for is to manipulate it to get into a position where I could hit. But what you're looking at tissue trauma created to the mouth, the nostrils, the eyes, the ears, the eyelids, anywhere, anything. You could get purchase on something and tear it off. And you're looking at doing that with configurations of the thumb or the fingers together, or as a pair or in unison, to grab, rip, and compulsively pull and tear. So it speaks for itself how you're going to do it. You know, probably for preceding the striker, could go chin jab into the eye, grab the eyelid, rip down the face. Chin jab, grab the lip, rip. With slap, grab the ear, rip this down. This ripping and tearing stuff belongs here. And if you're going to employ it with a partner, you've got to train it the way I just said with the gloves. All right? One final thing that you can do from frontal, again, working with the dummy like this, is just enter concussively with a strike and then look at what you have. So from here I've got a chin jab, to go into the eyes and then just rake. Chin jab, go into the lip and just rip. I can go chin jab straight into one eye and rip across. I can go chin jab from here just to manipulate the mouth to turn and rip so I can get another position. I can come down from here to take this eye. Lots of options are available. And the tools that you're going to employ to attack them are your fingertips and thumb tips, or the pads occasionally to press. But here what we're looking at, rather than poking, is driving in, ripping, tearing, raking, either for something as low level as a distraction to do something else, or to actually seek to shut the person down by disrupting vision and overwhelming them in a physiological and emotional sense. But it has a place, and it belongs in anti-grappling. So what we're going to look at is just some ways in which we can train it. What we're going to look at is concussively grabbing. So we used to use this on the doors. If we were to, there was a sudden need to literally pull somebody out of a chair and get them up quickly, we would either personally just concussively reach into here and just using my fingertips against my palms, just rag flesh and pull it, you know. You can, a lot of people think you can pinch like this. You can pinch like this. You can pinch by reinforcing with the fingers, or you can use the finger nails and pinch literally like that, like what Aaron Christensen calls a crab bite. Personally, I don't like pinching, but if I'm going to grab this arm and pull it, then I will grab and convulsively rip and pull it. Why wouldn't I do that? I would use it as a means to enhance the skill. I would also do it if the guy was fat. Had quite big fat face, fat jaws. I would slap this and grab it and pull. Or I would slap here with the left hand and grab it and pull. And the way I would do it is I would use my fingertips pushed against the palm of my hand. You know, this is a very old Charlie Nelson way of training, and to train the strength for it, you'd use a rubber ball. So it can work well. Clothing can totally negate the effect, as can pain resistance. So, but it has a place, right? So what we're looking at is concussively grabbing something so I can hit it. So if the subject had hair, I could concussively grab the hair and then just start to wail. And the more he struggled, as long as I had a good grip strength is relative here, you know, the worse it is for him. Or I could choose to, if we replicate it on the pad, so you want a pad that's a bit old, worn, a bit loose for leather, and then when I grab it here and convulsively grab it, now I'm shaking it around. Now that was his head. While I'm shaking it, I'm tapping it, and hit it. He was on grabbing his hair, grabbing, and I wanted him and putting this in. So grabbing and with a ripping feel has its place and belongs here. Another place I was showing this was what was taught to the US Marine Raiders during the war years from a very reputable instructor who showed me their association to the Chinese element, hence the Gung Ho Chuan flag. they would employ skill sets in various different ways. So, as an example, the clawed palm strike, known as the tiger's claw from Fairbairn, rather than be employed as a piston that was retracted, would be driven in as a strike with the aim of hooking onto the eyelids to gain a control of the face. Another example might be a slap. Instead of just a cupped hand slap to the ear, they would just throw the claw hand structure like this and convulsively close the hand on what they grabbed, with a high reliability of ripping and tearing as it went. So if that was an ear slap and I grabbed it, there's a good chance I've created tissue trauma to the ear as well. It's unlikely that in the moment you're going to grab it, convulsively close and then rip the ear off, but to grab and rip has a maximised effect. If you think about a tiger and it's, or a cat, a strong mountain cat, the actual bone structure of its leg, wrist, pad of its paw, and then its fingered-like claw structure. If you look at that as a whole, just the bone, that's a solid structure, and the creature's capable of massive impact delivery. So just the action without the claws of a big, say, bear paw coming boom, would crush your head. Then add to that fucking talons that would just slice you open. Now you're going to literally crush and slash and rip anything that it hits. So you look at some of the trauma that could be delivered to a human being by such a creature. It would be impactive, concussive, destructive to the bone structure, but absolutely complete lacerations to the tissue. Now, whether or not as humans we can manifest that kind of force is a relative thing, but certainly I'm going to hit hard if I've got good body mechanics. And then if I land this on the face, that's going to be a good impactful shot, even if it's just as a slap. But if I close my fingers convulsively as I do it, there's a good chance that I'm going to tear off what I hit. So this would be an example now of combining this maiming type of tools with impactive strikes. And this is a very good way to equalise the disparity in strength, weight and height for a woman against a man. So she might have very good slap. She might do much more damage. She fucking rips the fucking jewels of the face as she does it. Now she's going to leave him with something he's never going to forget, and she's got DNA under her fingernails. So first drill that we're going to look at, just going to look at means of just slapping and grabbing. That's all we're going to do. So you need the right pad for it. Make sure it's not one of those with your fingers exposed, because nails will hit your fingers and you will you scratch each other. Just slap and grab and get a good purchase. Shake it around a bit and then mouse work and slap it, grab it, rake it around. Application, side of his neck, face, hair, particularly if it was long, or even just chest muscle. Don't put your fingers in straight. You want an old pad that's kind of got a bit baggy. And when you click one that will allow you to put your fist in it and close your fist. So now my fingers are clear. So now I'm completely clear of anything that he could grab, snap, or damage or dislocate, and I've left this soft portion at the top. So now when he grabs it and slaps it, here, you can get a good purchase. So I understand the meaning. He might grab me here, and then grab my head, or my hair, or my ear, or whatever he could get purchase of. He might slap me in the side of the neck here, grab some skin, you know, and whatever. He might just slap me hard in the brachial plexus and then grab some clothing. You know, get the idea. But he's slapping, grabbing to manipulate. So get a good purchase of manipulation there. So now we can yank it around. So imagine that's your head. And as he's doing that, right, let's get an idea of this. Place a bit of accuracy. Bigger pad's probably better, looser the better. He's just going to slap and grab it. So I just want him to grab it, get used to grabbing it. So he's just going to grab it, get a feel. So you can lose it a few times. Just get a feel, just get an index, slap and grab it. Now pull it around a bit, grab it, get the feel with it, and then hit it. Right, what we're going to do literally is grab it, drag it, hit it. This is the drill, right? Then you can start to combine the two. So the influence from this has come from, you'll see the credits at the end. Really good Filipino guy, Venom Australia in Australia, in Melbourne, who works. So I've seen with one of my instructors before out there, Jimmy Armstrong. He has good understanding of this kind of kinematized stuff. Other influence from this comes from recently being with the Libre guys, what they call atromanus, where they've looked at the old Maiming methods, which seem to be common to Japan, India, Indonesia, as well as the Philippines. I mean, just old school style of dirty fighting, and it's incorporating the elements of raking and gouging and ripping and tearing and choking and biting and all this kind of stuff. So we're looking right now at the intel that's out there and giving credit for where we're getting the ideas and then formulating it into some drills that you can train and integrate with impact. So the two that we looked at here, you can slap and grab this, start to rag it around a little bit, hit it a few times, and then from there put it straight into that chest to back, pulling it into the smother, and now start raking and ripping and tearing, just working with the pad, right? So you can like work that with a facial target, with a contoured facial head target, or just a flat pad. Another good idea probably would be to just put a plastic bag, carrier bag over this, so now you've actually got something to purchase, to grab and rip and tear. So you're just going to literally slap onto it, get a convulsive grip, drag it, hit it a few times, up here, hit it, then spin it chest to back, pull it in, smother, rip, tear, bite. Simulate how you would work on a working head. So I mean, if I grabbed in here and I was like, boom, boom, put it in there, this kind of thing could fuck them up real quick. And that's just a combination of hitting, ballistic manipulation to get the person in place, and then rip, gouge and tear with secondary tools. So here we're taking a pad, we've just taken a piece of fabric, in this case just a t-shirt, wrapped it round it, tied it up so she's got something to grab. Here's an example. If she double slaps now and then indexes the eyes, she can index the eyes whilst holding the ears. From there she's going to ballistically convulsively shake the head as she sinks the thumbs in, and then keeping an attachment, beat on it with one hand. So from there she's going to double slap, grab it and rake it and rip it, and shake it around like you're shaking the head. Now maintaining a grip, hit, hammer it, elbow it, whatever you want from here. And again, double slap, gouge and shake. Shake the head. Good. Got a love handle grab. Love handle take grab. Try up chest to back. On the up, here. What's going on? Horrible.